A drone armada, 500 strong, launched in a single wave over one of the world's most volatile regions. This is not merely a bold tactic by Iran. It is a direct challenge to US dominance in the Persian Gulf and a calculated test of coalition readiness. Within minutes, the US Navy mobilized carrier groups, activating Aegis missile defense systems and Phalanx CIWS to intercept the threat. The operation forced an immediate halt to civilian shipping and pushed Allied forces into coordinated action under fire. Traditional carrier-based air defense and missile intercept doctrines are now being pushed to their limits. The scale of this operation has already tested US missile inventories and exposed the vulnerabilities of established defensive strategies. But the true danger of this swarm lies not just in its size, but in its underlying sophistication, the anatomy of Iran's drone swarm. To understand the scale and intent behind Iran's operation, it's essential to break down the composition of the drone swarm itself. The backbone was the Shahed 136, a loitering munition known for its low cost, ease of deployment, and ability to strike with precision. Designed as expendable kamikaze drones, Shahed 136 can search for targets and detonate on impact, enabling Iran to launch them in large numbers without straining resources. Their affordability and effectiveness have made them a favored tool for both Iranian forces and their regional proxies, with recent conflicts showing their use against infrastructure and military bases alike. Supporting the Shahed 136 were Mohajer-6 drones, which serve as multi-purpose platforms. These UAVs are capable of both surveillance and precision strikes, carrying guided munitions and relaying real-time intelligence. Their presence in the swarm adds a layer of tactical versatility, allowing for both reconnaissance and targeted attacks. Some analysts have suggested naval launches could extend Iran's range, but there is no public confirmation of Shahid Bagheri involvement in this particular operation. The Ababil-series drones rounded out the swarm, primarily acting as decoys. Their primary function was to saturate defensive systems, drawing fire and attention away from the more lethal UAVs. By forcing defenders to engage with non-lethal threats, these decoys help create gaps in air defenses, increasing the likelihood that strike drones reach their intended targets. All three types, Shahed 136, Mohajer-6, and Ababil-series, were deployed in a calculated mix to maximize the swarm's disruptive potential. Iran's approach relies on volume as much as technology. The deployment of 500 UAVs in a single wave is intended to overwhelm even the most advanced defensive networks. US surveillance assets detected synchronized flight patterns converging on Gulf choke points, a hallmark of coordinated swarm tactics. The drones' trajectories were mapped to exploit the region's strategic vulnerabilities. Shipping lanes, oil platforms, and military patrols all lay within their potential path. This level of coordination is not accidental. It reflects years of doctrinal refinement within Iran's drone program. The effectiveness of swarm tactics is not merely theoretical. In 2019, a smaller Iranian drone attack on Saudi Aramco's oil facilities disabled nearly half of Saudi Arabia's oil production, briefly disrupting a quarter of the world's oil supply. This incident demonstrated that even limited numbers of drones, when used strategically, can have global economic consequences. Today, Iran's drone factories are believed capable of mass production, fueling both direct operations and transfers to proxy groups across the region. The ability to rapidly scale up attacks increases the strain on any adversary's defensive posture. The asymmetric cost dynamic further tilts the balance. Each Shahed 136 costs a fraction of the price of the interceptor missiles required to shoot it down. Defenders are forced to expend expensive munitions on relatively cheap targets, risking depletion of their missile stocks and exposing critical infrastructure to follow-on attacks. This economic imbalance is central to Iran's strategy. By flooding the airspace with low-cost drones, Iran forces adversaries to make difficult decisions about resource allocation under pressure. This operation marked a significant escalation in both scale and complexity compared to previous Iranian drone campaigns. Earlier attacks, such as the April 2024 strikes on Israel, relied on smaller groups of kamikaze drones and ballistic missiles. The launch of 500 drones simultaneously, each with a defined role and coordinated flight path, signals a deliberate demonstration of operational capability. It's not just a test, but a message, one that underscores Iran's willingness to disrupt vital maritime corridors and challenge established security frameworks. The selection of targets was equally deliberate. By focusing on Gulf choke points, Iran showcased its capacity to threaten the arteries through which a significant portion of the world's oil flows. The operation's timing, coinciding with US-Israel naval drills, injected an additional layer of urgency and complexity. The use of unmanned systems offers Iran plausible deniability, reducing direct political risk while sending a clear signal to regional and global powers about its influence over Gulf security. In the end, the significance of this event lies not just in the number of drones, but in the orchestration and intent behind their deployment. The swarm's arrival forced an immediate and coordinated response from US and allied forces. Coming up, the Navy's layered shield faced its biggest swarming test yet. The US Navy's tactical response. US naval forces reacted with speed and precision as the Iranian drone swarm advanced toward Gulf choke points. The USS Eisenhower carrier group shifted to high alert, activating a layered defense architecture built for scenarios just like this. The Aegis combat system took charge of long-range tracking and missile interceptions, while Phalanx CIWS and evolved Sea Sparrow missiles, ESSMs, provided close-in protection against drones that slipped past the initial shield. This integrated approach was designed to counter threats arriving from multiple directions, reflecting the unpredictable nature of swarm tactics. Simultaneously, F/A-18 Super Hornets launched from the Eisenhower's deck, extending the defensive perimeter beyond shipboard systems. These aircraft swept over the Strait of Hormuz, targeting drones at greater distances and intercepting threats before they could approach critical infrastructure. In previous operations, US aircraft downed over 80 Iranian drones before they threatened Israeli airspace, underscoring the readiness and reach of American air power in high-tempo swarm scenarios. The current engagement drew on these lessons, with pilots tasked to identify and neutralize kamikaze UAVs while maintaining situational awareness over congested sea lanes. To secure the operational environment, the Navy imposed immediate no-fly and no-sail zones around strategic choke points. Civilian shipping through these waters was suspended, mirroring previous Gulf incidents where commercial traffic paused for hours due to heightened tensions. Merchant vessels were instructed to divert or anchor, minimizing the risk of collateral damage and clearing the battle space for coalition forces. The economic impact was immediate, as halted shipments underscored both the vulnerability and significance of these maritime corridors. Coalition coordination was central to the response. British and French naval assets worked in concert with the Eisenhower Group. Royal Navy Typhoon fighters operating from Cyprus and French frigates in the Gulf provided extended radar coverage, enhancing early warning and target identification. This integration plugged gaps in surveillance and interception, ensuring that no single nation bore the full burden of defending the region's vital shipping lanes. The collaboration highlighted the necessity of international cooperation to maintain maritime security in the face of evolving threats. Intercepting a mass drone swarm in the congested waters of the Strait of Hormuz posed unique challenges. The narrow passage is crowded with oil tankers and cargo ships, complicating both detection and engagement. Many drones, such as the Shahed 136, fly low and emit minimal radar signatures, making them difficult to track amid civilian traffic. The US Navy relied on precision targeting and coordinated fire discipline to avoid unintended escalation or collateral damage, a task made more complex by the unpredictable flight paths and decoy tactics embedded in the swarm. Despite these obstacles, the US response neutralized dozens of UAVs before they could threaten key targets. Shipborne Aegis intercepts and fighter patrols dismantled much of the incoming wave, sending Shahed 136 and Ababil-series drones into the sea. However, every engagement came at a cost. Each ESSM expended is valued in the hundreds of thousands of dollars, while the drones themselves cost a fraction of that, often only tens of thousands. This economic imbalance is central to the evolving nature of drone warfare, with defenders forced to weigh the sustainability of their response against the scale of the threat. Intelligence updates during the engagement indicated that dozens of drones may have returned to Iranian waters or looped back over shipping lanes, forcing US and allied forces to maintain a continuous state of readiness. Reconnaissance aircraft and electronic warfare units operating from regional bases deployed jamming techniques to disrupt drone control links, adding another layer to the defensive effort. The incident extended into the night, with ongoing monitoring required to ensure no UAVs slipped through the defensive net. The Eisenhower's actions demonstrated adaptability and technological sophistication, but the engagement also exposed the underlying strain of meeting massed, low-cost threats with expensive, high-end interceptors. The operation highlighted the limits of current naval doctrine when faced with adversaries capable of fielding large numbers of expendable drones. Each successful intercept was a tactical win, but the broader question of long-term sustainability remained unresolved. This confrontation marked a turning point in how the US and its allies must approach regional security. The swarm's scale and coordination were not arbitrary. They signaled a deliberate shift in strategy. The motivations behind Iran's escalation and what this operation was meant to achieve are now at the center of debate among military analysts and policymakers. Why Iran escalated now? Iran's escalation with a 500 drone swarm was not a reckless gamble, but a calculated move rooted in regional timing and strategic signaling. Days before the operation, the US and Israeli navies conducted routine joint drills in the Gulf, simulating counter-force strikes against Iranian weapons facilities. Tehran seized on these exercises to showcase its own counter-strike capabilities, using the drone operation to send a message that it could disrupt critical maritime corridors if its interests were threatened. By directing the swarm toward Gulf choke points, Iran demonstrated an ability to project power over vital shipping lanes and challenge adversaries' assumptions about regional stability. The joint drills tapped into long-standing Iranian anxieties about US and Israeli military cooperation. Iran's leadership has consistently condemned such exercises, interpreting them as provocations and attempts to encircle or isolate the country. The swarm's timing and scale were designed to address multiple audiences. For the United States and Israel, it was a warning that any perceived rehearsal for conflict would be met with a credible and immediate threat to economic and military interests. For regional states, it served as a reminder of the risks inherent in aligning too closely with American strategic plans. By demonstrating its ability to mobilize a large and coordinated drone force, Iran positioned itself as a counterweight to technologically superior adversaries. Regional dynamics played a significant role as well. Iran's proxies in Yemen, the Houthis, have faced mounting pressure following recent coalition operations that disrupted their activities and eroded their battlefield positions. The drone swarm functioned as a show of support and a morale boost for these allied forces, signaling Tehran's ongoing commitment to its network of proxies. While the operation was not explicitly linked to Houthi setbacks, the message resonated across the region. Iran retains the capability and willingness to intervene, either directly or through asymmetric means, to preserve its strategic depth. Economic pressure added another layer of urgency. Renewed US sanctions on Iranian oil exports have driven the rial to new lows, intensifying Tehran's need to project deterrence and leverage disruptive threats. The drone operation was a calculated demonstration that Iran could threaten the stability of the Gulf, and by extension, global energy markets. Nearly a third of the world's oil passes through these waters, and any perception of risk can drive up prices and unsettle economies far beyond the region. By signaling a willingness to disrupt commerce, Iran sought to create leverage in its ongoing struggle against economic isolation. Iran's approach to escalation reflects a pattern of using regional crises to apply pressure on adversaries and shift the strategic narrative. In April 2024, Iranian drones and missiles struck Israeli targets. Those strikes tested Israeli defenses. This swarm tested the Gulf's shipping arteries. The difference lay in the operational objectives. While the former focused on military sites, the latter was designed to generate uncertainty, exhaust defensive resources, and reveal vulnerabilities in maritime security. The evolving reliance on unmanned aerial vehicles illustrates Iran's strategic adaptation. Drones serve not only as weapons, but also as instruments of psychological warfare, forcing adversaries to expend costly interceptors and divert resources. The swarm doctrine compels defenders to choose between accepting potential damage or risking depletion of their missile inventories. Although the scale of this operation limited plausible deniability, the use of drones still provided Iran with a flexible tool for escalation below the threshold of conventional war. Notably, Iran calibrated its actions to avoid direct engagement with US or allied vessels. By steering drones toward international shipping lanes and patrol zones without launching direct attacks, Tehran demonstrated restraint and a careful calculation of risk. This approach is consistent with Iran's broader strategy of pushing boundaries to provoke a reaction without triggering full-scale retaliation. The drone swarm was not just a test of naval defenses. It was a probe of political resolve in Washington and a signal to domestic audiences that Iran maintains viable options under pressure. The deeper question remains, was this swarm intended as a singular display of capability, or is it the opening act of a broader campaign of pressure? And Washington's next move may decide if this was a one-off or a prelude to sustained pressure operations. As the region absorbs the implications of this operation, the underlying dynamics point to a changing landscape in which unmanned systems and asymmetric tactics will play an ever greater role. The Persian Gulf incident is only the latest indicator of how rapidly the nature of warfare is evolving. The future of drone warfare and defense. The Gulf swarm exposed how drone swarms have transitioned from tactical tools to strategic weapons of mass disruption. This shift is anchored in two developments: the economic asymmetry between attackers and defenders, and the rapid evolution of counter-drone measures. At the heart of Iran's swarm doctrine lies a calculated exploitation of cost differences. The Shahed 136, a loitering munition at the center of Iran's arsenal, is produced for approximately $20,000 per unit. In contrast, intercepting these drones often requires evolved Sea Sparrow missiles, ESSM, or similar systems, each costing up to $1 million. This imbalance allows Iran and similar actors to saturate defenses, knowing that every successful interception drains the resources of technologically superior militaries. The result is a war of attrition fought not just with hardware, but with budgets, forcing defenders to make hard choices about when and how to expend their limited, expensive munitions. Iran's approach to swarm warfare is straightforward. Overwhelm air defenses with sheer volume. Then exploit any gaps with higher value strike drones. The 2019 attack on Saudi Aramco's oil facilities demonstrated this concept in practice, as a combination of drones and cruise missiles bypassed advanced systems and inflicted significant economic damage. The Gulf incident took this doctrine to a new scale, showing that massed coordinated UAVs can threaten even the most heavily defended maritime corridors. Defensive strategies are evolving in response. US naval forces now integrate multiple layers of protection, blending kinetic and electronic tools. Electronic warfare units are deployed to jam command links and disrupt the coordination of incoming swarms, a tactic validated in recent operations across the region. By targeting the communications between drone operators and their UAVs, these units can break up coordinated attacks and force drones into erratic flight paths, reducing their effectiveness. This electronic layer is especially critical in narrow, congested areas like the Strait of Hormuz, where a single breach could halt commercial shipping and trigger broader economic consequences. Kinetic defenses remain essential as the last line of protection. Shipboard systems such as the Phalanx CIWS engage drones that evade outer missile layers, while ESSMS provide medium-range interception. Yet, as drone designs advance, with features like stealth coatings, low radar signatures, and increasing autonomy, traditional defenses are being tested. The constant interplay between offensive innovation and defensive adaptation defines the current arms race at sea. Emerging technologies offer both promise and challenges. Directed energy weapons, such as the US Navy's Laser Weapon System, LOWS, have been tested against small unmanned aerial systems, providing a glimpse of future solutions that could neutralize swarms without the high cost of missiles. However, these systems remain in the trial phase and are not yet fielded as operational defenses. Their eventual deployment could shift the cost equation. But for now, navies must rely on a mix of proven and experimental systems. Globally, other militaries are also responding to the drone threat with rapid innovation. Israel's Iron Beam, a laser-based system adapted to target UAVs, reflects real-time advances in counter-drone technology. Its promise lies in engaging drones at the speed of light, without the logistical strain of conventional munitions. Such developments indicate a future in which electronic and directed energy defenses will play a larger role, but they also highlight the need for constant adaptation as adversaries refine their own tactics. Offensively, drone capabilities are advancing just as quickly. Improvements in battery technology, fuel efficiency, and AI-driven navigation allow for longer-range, semi-autonomous missions. Drones now operate as reconnaissance platforms, decoys, and precision strike assets, all within the same mission envelope. Iran's export of these systems to proxy forces in Yemen, Iraq, Lebanon, and Syria demonstrates the proliferation risk and the challenge of containing the threat beyond state actors. The strategic significance of the Gulf remains paramount. The Strait of Hormuz is a vital artery for global energy flows and a focal point for potential escalation. Any attempt to close or disrupt this choke point would have immediate global repercussions, underscoring the necessity of robust naval presence and international cooperation. US warships, equipped with advanced sensors and layered defenses, stand as the primary bulwark against swarm tactics. But the burden of constant vigilance is substantial. With swarms ready at sea and in the skies, the battle for the Gulf's control has entered a new, automated era. Are our defenses ready? Drone swarms have moved to the center of modern conflict, as demonstrated by Iran's use of hundreds of low-cost UAVs to challenge advanced naval defenses in the Persian Gulf. This operation makes clear that no static doctrine can withstand tomorrow's swarm. Military planners must continuously adapt defensive strategies to keep pace with rapid technological change and shifting tactics. What counter-drone measures do you think will matter most in the next phase of this arms race? Share your thoughts in the comments and subscribe for more in-depth analysis on evolving security threats and military innovation.